Hello.
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 Well, we got lots of people in the car today.
It's a full car.
So we are on the M40. We're heading towards London. London!
Yay!
And you're in our podcast. And what are we calling this?
Don't know. Guest cast. There we go.
Guest cast.
That's a nice one.
I like
Yeah.
guest cast.
So this is Mark,
And that's Tom.
and that's Finn, and that's Lacey.
Yep.
Everybody wave.
Woo!
I'm going to be more distracted than usual again. It's like the first couple, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the first two where you were driving.
Yeah.
Hang on.
This is where I missed my turning and we end up in Essex.
Yeah, that was close last time. I don't know how we ended up in Essex when we were going to York.
Okay.
I'm a very bad driver.
So,
Scenic route.
yeah, scenic route. Yeah, I like that. So, the main thing we do on this podcast is we ask random questions, and sometimes they're themed.
Oh, here's one. Random question. Why is it the Americans say router's route and router is router?
Wait, what?
So we say router, you say router.
Yeah.
We say route, you say route. You just reverse what we say.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. It's probably some historic wanting to distinguish from being British.
Well, that could be the answer, but even in America, router and router seems to change by state.
Oh, yeah. That's dialects, really.
Dialects, there we go, that answers that. Well done.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. So, let's actually get on to some questions because, we actually have some interestingly themed questions today. The first one is, why do you role play?
Hey. So this follows on from a conversation we just had while we were having food.
Right.
And we were discussing all the various ways we've managed to die or kill other characters or be killed by other characters in various games. So
my character's died more than yours.
Well, yes, you're one of the GMs. We generally kill your characters.
Yes. you laugh at it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you laugh at us when you kill our characters.
I don't laugh.
Yes.
I might rub my hands with glee.
Summon another dragon.
Giggle, summon
Yes.
another dragon.
Yeah. So why do you roleplay? I mean, let's
I like
start with
hurting people.
So Mark likes hurting people. That's why you roleplay.
I don't.
Why do you roleplay? Why do you roleplay?
Because then I can do fantastical situations that are in my head, which I wouldn't be able to do in real life. Because generally you can't fight dragons and set big things on fire. Well, you can, but that is generally illegal.
Yeah, real life, the role-playing game just did not get past Kickstarter.
Nah.
Generally thought by most people to be a bad idea.
Indeed. But yes, it allows me to sort of do what I imagine in my head. So a big thing I enjoy in roleplay, which I find usually exceedingly boring to try and do when writing, say, a story, is I get presented problems and situations and have to try and figure out solutions and how to deal with them.
Yeah, I like his answer. I want to take his. And why do you roleplay, Lacey? Then?
I like it as a social activity with a bunch of my friends and other like-minded people. I like the strategy aspects of it, where you're, like Finn was saying, if you're presented with a problem, how do you get around it? And you can go the violent murder hobo route, or you can go the sort of negotiation. There are many different ways to solve puzzles.
That's a Rutger Hauer movie I want to see made. Hobo with a +5 intelligence sword.
But
Fighting scumbags and dragons.
yes.
Riding a magical dolphin called Clive. I want that movie now.
Clive! Disney, if you're watching, get in contact with us. We've got great ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the social aspects as well. I mean, that's what really drew me to it. Is I think nearly everybody gets drawn to it at a young age.
Yeah.
Usually, sometimes in college or from school friends, and then it sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, I find I like role playing. Yeah, again, the social aspect, and you get to do things that you couldn't do otherwise. You know, I mean, I don't think I'd survive jumping off a cliff in full plate armor personally.
No.
My character did. Then he got up and punched the orc that threw him. and then threw him off the edge.
And
which
much
then
as
fell off
medicine
again.
is fantastic, we don't really have resurrection yet.
Yeah, no.
Thankfully.
No. If we got resurrection, that would be entertaining.
I for a very short time.
Yeah. Okay.
So we got some of the interesting things is that it tends to be people think that role playing is restricted to a certain mindset and a certain type of person. I don't know, archetypical US term, a nerd or a geek, not a jock. But I don't find that to be actually true. I think, I think it's true as in those stereotypes are there and people think they're true, but I don't think they're really true.
No, I think it's generally actually drawn to people who like stories that they can affect.
I think you find there's a lot of people who are like that. So I know a lot of people who do fantasy football.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the same thing, which is you're pretending to be something. This time you're pretending to be a football manager. You have pretend games that you get very invested in, and if you've got sophisticated enough programs that support that, they will actually give you enough feedback. And you have teams of different people playing it, and then you have all the stats and the numbers that attract people as well. And people who play fantasy football fall into about the same levels of categories as those people who role play, and they tend to get together and talk over their games as well.
Yeah.
So I used to know a group of people who used to meet in a pub to do fantasy football, and the conversation around the table matched, it's almost exactly the same what you get in a roleplay session, just without dragons.
Yeah, and this is something a lot of people miss, is that the terms of geek and jock is they actually mean the same thing, just about generally about a different subject. Jocks are generally actually geeks about sports. Yes. They are geeking over sport. I mean, they're that into football or hockey or rugby or insert game
And
here.
yeah, there are plenty enough health fanatics who like all the stats and like all the figures.
Yeah. So I mean, there we go. Most people role play to escape reality.
Are we actually saying that what we have here is that okay, so we even go to the level of people who get very invested in their soap operas or in particular stories and enact out the characters and the stories become real to them. That's the same level as role-playing, where the character becomes real to you.
Yeah.
Except somebody else has made up the character for you, but you're still sharing a universe with those creators. You're making a shared reality that you're composing and being part of.
Yeah.
If you then extend that character, so you get people talking about their favourite soap opera and they imagine situations in which the characters might do next, they're creating a storyline. Now it won't happen because somebody else is controlling it, but they still do it.
Yeah. So
you're basically talking about fan fiction.
Yes.
yeah.
Fanfic is the thing.
Yeah.
So pretty much what we're saying here is maybe role-playing it actually speaks to a part of your nature that if you belong to a certain class of people, the geeks, where you're already an outsider, it's far easier for you to give up that shell of not being cool because you're already not cool. You've already been classed as weird.
Oh yeah.
I'm so uncool, it's cool. Wait,
Yeah,
what?
no.
No, never mind. So that leads in nicely to should people role play? And
Yes.
yeah, go on, do it.
Yes.
And it's as we said earlier, there's a lot of different things that people do that are role play that people don't necessarily think is. So fantasy football, for example, or online role play games. You know, you are playing as that character. You know, you're not playing as yourself jumping through hoops. You know, in Portal, you're playing as Chell, for example.
And you even get that down to mobile games that have the same thing, where they have a certain level of element of playing the game and becoming the character. And we can't exactly say that they're not now mainstream.
Yeah, there is such a big mainstream gaming thing these days of various things. I mean, hell, stuff like Skyrim. Skyrim was a big one for a lot of people to playing, and that is a role play game. You know, you are the Dragon Slayer of, I think, Dragon Slayer. I'm guessing. I've actually not played it. Dragonborn. Okay, shows how much I know. I've not played it.
Entire of the Final
Warcraft.
Fantasy series.
Yeah.
That has millions of players that pay monthly to play it.
Yeah. World of Warcraft, RuneScape, Star Trek Online, fantasy football.
EverQuest is still one.
So maybe what we got here is everybody should roleplay, and everybody probably does roleplay to some degree. It's just to what level you think it's acceptable, and what is more levels of acceptability determines to what level you do it.
Yeah.
So if you don't think it's that cool to be playing a wizard fighting a dragon, and you're too cool for that, you indulge in it to a lesser extent by talking fantasy situations about a TV show or a film or real life. And do we not role-play in real life? Do we not imagine situations where we're doing things? Even when we talk about our career and our future, do you not role-play out those situations in your head?
Yeah.
Is that not the same thing?
Indeed, that's to an extent why I enjoy role-playing as an activity, because it means I can actively play out the scenarios in my head.
Indeed. So what we've actually got here is that, to a great extent, your level of consciousness creates your level of reality. The level to which you are conscious of your surroundings and interact with your surroundings creates the level at which you interact with reality, and reality is created for you. So, honestly, what I'm kind of indicating there is that role-playing is actually positive, because it allows you to play out the more fantastical elements that your brain creates in situations in a confined and rule-based area, so that you can actually interact better with the rest of reality.
Yeah.
This is mostly because of the idea of that was sort of proposed to me, that we actually construct reality ourselves to stop it sending us mad, and that maybe people who are actually a little bit what we would call non-neurotypical, and displaying non-neurotypical behaviour are actually seeing reality for what it is. And maybe that's why they
have seen through the veil.
They see through the veil that we construct. So I'm saying basically that if you don't roleplay, the less you roleplay, probably the more harmful this is to your brain, because your brain needs to construct realities.
So
it needs to hide away the sheer everything of the universe.
Yeah, limits the scope of the universe to something that you can understand.
Somebody's just wonderfully cut me up at 70 miles an hour because they're an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, and now they're going back again.
Yeah. It's not
If
like we have
only
a
you
camera
could see
facing
what
the
I
other way.
could see,
Yeah.
you would see that they're a jackass.
What
yes.
the fuck ever?
And now they're giving us a thumbs up.
Wow. What the?
I have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
Confused. What the fuck? Oh, he's talking to the idiot in the van next to him.
Yep.
Okay.
So everybody, what we've done now is we've just noticed this, and the license plate was SC016ORZ, and it was a red van talking to a white car whose license plate I didn't get, but it was on the camera in my car.
Yeah, because
As
we
they
have a
were
driver cam.
talking to each other on the going back and forth on the motorway. Obviously, they'd recognise their friend.
Yeah. So yeah.
Brilliant. Just.
So if you ever know that person, know that they're an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Let's take a different track then, because I've seen a question that relates to that. Driverless cars on UK roads by 2012. Is it going to happen?
2021.
2021. Yeah. 2012. No, it didn't. 2021. Will it happen? Will it happen in 4 years? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There are already driverless cars on the road.
Yeah.
Whether, to what extent?
I wish there was two in front of us just then, because they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, along with, I wish that my car was fitted with cannons.
Cannons, tank,
Speaking of role-playing.
We are now driving a tank. We'll be back with you in a minute. Do you know how to drive this thing?
Are you a goldfish, Bob?
I don't know, Bob. Are you a cow?
But yes, driverless cars, it seems interesting. I imagine it would be still supervised in terms of let's make sure just in case, but...
I think the early ones are going to be still supervised.
Yeah,
so they'll still have a steering wheel and maybe brakes.
Yeah, I mean definitely the ones in the test ones for Google at least have at least an emergency button for no, stop, you're doing something stupid. But
Indeed,
that's actually as much control as you've got. There's no steering wheel.
To go into the terminology a little better, what we're actually talking about is not really driverless, because that's a nonsense term. Because it has a driver, the computer is the driver. We're talking about autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
So we already have semi-autonomous vehicles. I'm driving one. It's not that semi-autonomous, but it does have cruise control, and I can lock the steering wheel, and it does have automatic braking, and it has lane recognition, and it has the ability to slow me down and put the brakes on itself if it thinks there's an issue.
Yeah.
It also has a power restrictor and a speed restrictor.
Yeah. I know my sister's car.
So that's a level of autonomy.
Yeah. My sister's car's also got one that this doesn't have, which is lane correction, where if you're swerving out the lane, it will just slightly nudge you back towards it. You can overcome it. If you're holding the steering wheel, it won't, but it will actually recorrect you if you're not holding onto the steering wheel hard.
Yes.
Which is really nice, although has confused her a few times. But yeah, so I mean, they're out there already.
And then of course there's Teslas who will automatically take you places now.
Yeah, they've got full autonomous control, and wow, I mean,
I still feel like it would require the ability to do manual access if for some reason the electronic system failed though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that it did it in iRobot, and more recently.
Again, you've got to imagine that iRobot was because people who were very scared of it complained, so therefore they put that kind of thing in.
Yeah.
I actually think just a button on the dashboard that tells it to stop is enough. Because if there is a situation where the computer is not as in control, you are not going to be in more control than that computer.
Yeah, I mean, I think
if the vehicle's that autonomous, what on that vehicle is not going to be controlled by a computer? If the computer stops working, the engine's going to stop anyway.
Right. Well, you're missing actually part of what was in iRobot. I'm thinking of iRobot. No, I'm not thinking of iRobot. Shit, never mind me.
Well, what were you thinking of?
I was thinking of Minority Report, and also Blade Runner, the latest one.
2049?
That's the one. Blade Runner 2049, where it is semi-autonomous. So, for example, in Blade Runner, it's flying for him, and then when he gets closer into somewhere, he can self-pilot it when it's out and about. And the same in Minority Report. It's self-driving around the city, but when he goes out of the city into the not wilderness, but into the countryside, you drive it, because I'm guessing because it doesn't have the ability to drive in those roads because they're not covered by all the other fully autonomous vehicles.
Quite probably.
So I mean, it would make a lot more sense in places like motorways and stuff, which could be fully autonomous, because we just need to get to where we're going, and a car and a fully autonomous fleet will get you there a lot faster. But if you're in places like up in the lakes, in the Lake District, an autonomous car is going to have a bad day with just the quality, the state of the roads, whether the lines on the road and stuff like that just either not being there, or the road just not being made of concrete and maybe made of something else.
I would say that would depend on the quality of the actual sensors it has on the vehicle.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it would depend on the quality of the software.
Yeah.
Because if you have enough sensors and enough high quality software, which they are getting to that, it will make decisions far better than a human can.
So something in the future,
at which
like
point
2021.
you're the more dangerous driver on those roads.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that if they're going to do anything like that, it's going to be I think to do half and half.
I think the introduction of the earlier models will be half and half, but again, I think that's only because of people who are unsure of the technology and think the things that you just explained there. You see, the thing I think is that for the past 2 decades, we've had people working on autonomous control systems that have been addressing those exact questions you just put forward.
Yeah.
And in fact, those are the things they addressed first.
Yeah.
So, in fact, the vehicles they're releasing now can do those things, but they choose not to actually release them completely because of the legislation changes that are needed, and also because of the technology changes in terms of getting people used to that technology.
Yeah. So something I could see actually happening is with a fully autonomous, which can also be manually controlled, is having lanes and stuff that are autonomous only. If you don't have autonomous vehicle, you cannot use that lane or entire road, for example. So you then have the ability, you pull onto it and your car takes over because it knows better than you with every other car. And it can drive, with a full autonomous fleet that knows, then each car knows its own capabilities, they can drive a lot closer to each other because they're going to have detectors of anything going wrong otherwise.
Plus, I imagine where a bunch of cars are stopped, they'd all be able to start at the same time rather than having to wait for the one in front of them to move.
Yeah, for example, traffic jams
You
would be
basically get
non-existent anymore.
almost hive mind where all the cars will tie in together and know the sensors of the other car.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see it being like if they're going to do, and they're probably going to have to do a gradual
So,
rollout of it,
I
it's going to
think
have to be
There's
stuff like that.
The two problems that we haven't actually addressed here are first, they're both social. First of all, you've got the whole problem of hackers
Yeah.
gaining access to systems. We already know this has happened on a large scale in America,
Oh yeah.
where there's been exploits. One worries about third-party components that are cheaply made that don't have the same level of security being hacked. So remote control systems that are Bluetooth control, we already know that if you've not got a very good Bluetooth control level, it can be hacked. It has to be a targeted assault, but you know, people make targeted assaults. So you have to worry about hackers getting into the software, or combined attack. What happens if an unfriendly government decides to turn off all your cars, or just to turn off all the brakes on all the cars?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be international level sort of security. Because if the American lot get hacked by the Russian lot, then
For instance, let's not say that those countries would do that to each other.
not that they have or have.
It depends if
admitted
those
to
cars were actually going to make an election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the other thing. You've got to make sure it's completely politically uninvolved and.
But the thing is, you also need a
Something
lot
like
of
that.
political involvement because you need the legislation and the regulation.
Yeah.
You can't have an unregulated market because then you're not going to have the same level of controls. Because a deregulated market means that people can make and sell the cheapest possible sensor that can be hacked.
Yeah.
And there'll be no regulation to say that there's any comeback. So I can make a sensor and go, buy this for your car instead of the $400 one, buy my $50 one. But my $50 one can be hacked by your grandma.
Yeah.
Or has a back door for.
Or has a
various
back
reasons.
door that's well known. Or can't be updated. It's just
yes.
the whole, if you deregulate a market, you are going to end up with that.
Yeah.
It is not, markets do not run up high for quality. If they did, we wouldn't have had the Challenger disaster in the 1980s.
Yeah. Lowest bidder.
Lowest bidder to the highest quality does not work.
No.
So I worry about that side of it. The other side I worry about is what we're actually going to end up with is a mass transportation system where only the very richest people will be able to afford a vehicle of their own. Otherwise, you'll be sharing your vehicle, but it's worked out by a computer the best route. So the computer will work out your route to work based on how much you want to pay, and will pick up people that you do not know.
Yeah.
And there'll be no regulation of that, because that will be the only sensible way to implement it. If, say for instance, if a well-known big taxi company could make 3 times as much money and charge their people half as much cost, people are going to take that. But now you've got a situation where you've got a self-driving vehicle that's not regulated, with 4 people who can get into a car, 3 people you may not know, at a very cheap cost. Who are you getting in the car with? Who's going to secure them if there's a problem?
Yeah.
And-
There's so many
Are there not going to be
social
automated
issues
buses?
with that. Yeah.
They're going to be automated buses. And you're going to have that situation because it's the only way that you can economically scale up to make the most profit, is to
Yeah.
put random people in vehicles together.
Yeah.
Which
Hence-
is public transportation, but done by private companies for the highest level of cost they can, with the least amount of regulation and the least amount of comeback and the least amount of security, because all of those things cost money. So I worry at the social aspect of it as well. So there you go. There's some deep thinking for you.
That's probably going to take longer than 4 years to figure out. So
But the implementation within 4 years is going to be
Yeah.
much more you own, or a taxi firm owns some regulated vehicles,
Yeah.
and they only pick up individuals to start off with,
So-
or at one location.
Yeah.
But I do not see how you can say that it's not economically viable for me to say, I own a taxi firm, I've got to go 20 miles, I can take one person for £20, or I can say to that, well, I can pick up 4 people and charge them £7 each. I'm going to make the £28, I've made £8 more, and all those 4 people are going to take that ride because they're saving 13 quid each.
yeah.
So it's just economics. People will go for cheapness, and this is why we have toxic big firms. because people give away their data for free because they are the product, and people go for cheap rides with companies that they go, well, that company can't be abusing its staff and its employees, and it certainly can't be a bad company. It's not going to break any laws. It's not going to allow a massive hack that gives away all my data. I'm naming no names here.
No. Because this will probably, because even though we could name names of the company that this may or may not have, or probably definitely has happened to.
All of this is this week.
This is this week. It has happened,
Yes.
but the thing is, will this happen again?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to happen
And
again.
it'll
Will it
happen-
happen to a will it
It'll
happen
happen
to a
with more
transport
frequency,
firm?
and I worry because the governments that we have in some of the, I don't know,
More technologically advanced countries.
or monetarist-centred countries are more likely to introduce it based around businesses and deregulating businesses because somehow that's innovative.
Yeah.
You know, we're completely ignoring the fact that the largest innovative country on the planet right now is a communist country.
Yeah.
But you know,
Well then.
nobody ever wants to bring the China in the room.
No. The China elephant in the room. Yeah. So that was an interesting aside.
Well, there's one other aspect that people also don't consider is if something goes wrong with one of these cars and say like it's your car and you're not actually controlling it, are you liable for
Or is the company
malfunction
liable?
or the
Yeah.
Liability. Oh, goody. There's
Is it
another
the person
can
who
of
made the software? Yeah, so we have this whole thing in the UK. If you own a router and it gets hacked and somebody puts a load of illegal material across that router, the owner, the place where it's hacked from, is technically responsible.
Yeah.
And the sites that if it then gets pushed to some websites that are not owned by somebody else, and rather terrible material goes up on them, the person who owns that site is now responsible. Both of those people are not responsible because they got hacked and illegal activity was placed upon them, but they now are responsible. It's like somebody breaking into your car, stealing your car, using it to kill somebody. Now it's your fault because it was your car.
Well, you'd be an accessory to it, which is
Exactly.
basically
Because you didn't secure your car enough
yeah.
with those massive padlocks that let you fit on the street.
Yeah.
So
Hey.
yeah, that's a very good set of points. Exactly where do we go? The legislation working out this, unfortunately the technology is way ahead of where any of the legislation can go.
Yeah.
And the moral and social aspects way ahead, and even the business implications. The technology streams ahead of all of this. These are challenges that we are going to have to address, and they're kind of big and scary.
Yeah. So that's a couple of questions for another time, I guess.
Yeah, so we're going to say, I guess we're finishing up.
Yeah.
Now, on a previous podcast, I thought that possibly all mammals had 2 arms and 2 legs and that there were no 4-legged mammals. I was wrong. There are. I
So-
apologise to all the 4-legged mammals out there. If you're watching, sorry dogs, sorry horses, sorry cows, all the gentle goats galumping in the fields. Galump, galump, galump. If you are a rabbit who's been severely affected by this podcast, please get in touch with us.
Oh, wait,
We have a
carrots.
special place for you with carrots and onion and stock and delicious spices. It will be a warm place, a tender place.
Call
Like
0800.
a tender place for you, lovely,
con-
lovely rabbits.
If you are a rabbit and have been affected by this,
In
contact
fact, if you're a
us at-
cow or a pig,
or
a
a cow or a
tasty,
pig,
tasty pig.
There's the hunting rifle.
call us at 0800 CookPot.
Yes, we'll look after you. We'll look after you.
And I think that's the name of today's
Animals
podcast
have
as well.
rights in my house.
I think that's the name of today's podcast. 0800 CookPot.
0800 CookPot. There's probably a number.
Yeah.
It's probably owned by
It
somebody.
probably has it. Yeah. Okay.
CookPot.
So if you ring it, it's not us. We haven't just done a Tom
Sorry,
Scott on you.
CookPot.
Sorry, CookPot. But yeah. So
This has been extraordinarily fun. Thank you to our wonderful guests.
Yep.
So that's Finn and Lacey,
Thank you.
And he's been Mark.
and he's been Tom.
Bye bye.
Bye.